What's up? Matt Urch from Urchfab. This is part 12 on the Mongrel build. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to make a start on getting the roll cage in. But the first job is going to be to remove these and then make the foot boxes that the cage legs will come down to. And then it's got some like support pieces in these back corners. I'm going to take those out and they'll be replaced with the foot box for the main hoop. So first job on the list is cut these out, remove those, clean everything up, and then we're going to fold up some boxes at 3mm plate, weld them all together, get them sat in there, and then we'll have everything we need to take all our measurements and start bending up some tube. Right, so I've removed this corner piece that was in here. I'm going to replace this with a box, basically, that this roll cage is going to fit onto, and then the leg of the cage will sit on top of this box level with that. There's a couple of reasons why I prefer to do a box rather than have a plate to the floor. First reason is if you use a box, you can drop the cage down off the boxes to weld the tops rather than drilling a hole in the floor and dropping the whole cage down through the floor. The second reason is if you build a box up to the top of the sill, you can mount the cage further towards the outer edge, giving you a tighter fit to the body. It wouldn't be so bad on this because the sill's quite flat. But on a lot of cars, the sill will come down at quite an angle, so this corner of the floor would be sort of further in, and your cage would be coming up quite far away from this pillar, and you're not supposed to have the legs bending inwards. So by sitting on top of the sill, you can usually get it a lot tighter to your pillars and just get it to run a bit nicer. Also, with a box connected into the sill, the sill's generally going to have more strength in it than this section of the floor. You can connect it to this back piece, this whole sill, and the floor with a box, so you just get a lot more area than just having a big square plate on the flat floor pan. You're connecting into a lot more surfaces, just going to be better. What I usually do is just rough out the sort of size I want. And then I'll square all this up when I mark it out onto the plate, and then cut it a little bit bigger, and then we'll trim it and get an exact fit on here. The more time you spend getting a really good fit, the better the end result's going to look. So I've just traced it on there, squared everything up. These are the fold lines. So I'm going to plasma cut these out, get them fit up nice, and then we'll make the end caps for them. I've been meaning to make a real heavy duty little folder for doing this, folding 3mm plate, but I just end up abusing this thing instead. Doesn't seem to mind it. So I've got that fit pretty well. Now I need to make some cardboard templates to cap the ends off. Same for that one, cap for both sides, and then we'll weld them all together and then just tack them in place. So these are my end plates, which are going to cap off the boxes. So I need 2 of these, 4 of these. Boxes are in. They're pretty good fit. That is good enough to weld. I could weld that no problem with those little gaps, but a little trick for getting a really tight fit is once you've got it sat somewhere near, get a Sharpie and use like the sill or whatever it is you're trying to trace the line across, and just run your pen tight against the inner corner and try and keep the pen at the same angle so you're not tipping it in and out, and then just follow the line of the sill all the way up. And then you don't actually have to take all of this back to that line. You just need to take the material from the outer edge back far enough so that the gap is the same all the way around, if you know what I mean. So you could just go up to that line and leave an even amount. I'll show you. So I've not actually ground all the way back to the line, I've just ground it so it's like an even distance from the line, so you don't really have to take too much material off. There we go, super tight fit. Alright, so now I've got those boxes done, I'm going to measure up for the main hoop and get the main hoop bent. The seats in the MX-5, because it's a two-seater, do sit quite close to this back edge. So if you look at a lot of MX-5 cages, they have the main hoop tilting back, following this tilted line up here. Like, tilted main hoops is just one of my, like, I just hate it, I don't know why. I just think, like, I always want mine to be dead like 90 degree to the sill of the car if I can do it. So what I'm going to do in this, which will be different to any other one I've done, is I'm going to have the hoop come down, which is going to be quite far back in this pillar, and then it's going to curve in and follow the way that this inner sort of panel goes. So it'll look as if it's straight up here, but it'll actually come back down to the floor. Alright, so this is all I need really for my main hoop. I haven't filmed me measuring it because I've done a whole video explaining exactly how you take all your measurements and transfer it to the tube and everything. I'll put a link in to that video here or at the end. If you're interested in that, go and watch that first and then come back to this. But this is where we're at. 3075 for the total length of the piece of tube I need. 1280 is the outer measurement for where the legs need to sit at the bottom. So these lines are where the bends start and where the bends finish. So 680, that'll have a marker in the middle of the tube, and then we'll mark out 340, start our first bend. We've got a 79 degree bend at the top before you start your next bend, 400, then a 5 degree bend, and we don't need that measurement because that will just be cut to fit at the bottom. So what's different about this is normally I would make this so that whole hoop makes 180 degrees exactly. So if that was 79, that would be 11, but on this particular cage, the legs are actually going to be coming down at an angle like that just because of the way the body shapes in so much. It's kind of different. And then this is the side profile of this, and it's going to have a 22.5 degree bend to follow the floor pan and bring the hoop back far enough to where it's not going to interfere with the seat or be right next to my head or anything like that. So someone wanted to know how you can check if tube is seamless. You want to be using seamless CDS tube for a roll cage or whatever is specified for whatever it is you're going to be using the car for. There's only one real way to test the tube, and that is the yak test. Yep, she good. But yeah, if it's seamless tube, you know, it won't have a seam in it. Normal welded tube is a piece of flat which has been rolled around and welded all the way down the seam. So you'll have a seam on the outside where they skim the top of the weld off, you'll be able to see it, and then on the inside you'll actually have a ridge. Seamless tube has no ridges because it's been drawn out to whatever size it is you've ordered. They've drawn it out from like a hollow like billet piece and they stretch it over dies. And that's how they get it without a seam basically. But if you were to just buy a piece unknown, you're not really going to know what spec it is. So the only way to know is to know who you're ordering it from, and you know, they'll give you the spec or, you know, a sheet which says exactly what it is on it. If you're buying bits of tube second hand and stuff, then it's not the ideal way to do it if you're going to build a roll cage.
Like a glove.
There we go, that is in. that was really quite tricky to bend, because I tried to do it with only 4 bends, angling this bend in slightly to bring this leg down instead of having a bend to bring it out this way and a bend to bring it in this way. But I didn't quite go enough, so I did have to just kink the legs over a little bit to get them to pull into the feet. These will, you can, I'll be able to put a ratchet strap around that and just pull it in a little bit to get it to where it needs to go when I want to weld it. But yeah, that's the main hoop in. So it is going to look like the hoop is very far back in comparison to the pillar, but that is because the pillar is very far forward, because this thing's got tiny little doors on it. And if I had the main hoop coming anywhere near this pillar, it would be pushing my head over into the middle of the car when I'm sat in the seat. I'll put the seat in and show you why it has to be like that. So yeah, this is the problem with this car, is that this pillar, you know, is parallel to where my head is. So if I had the main hoop running against this pillar, I wouldn't even fit in here with a helmet on, it'd be pressing against it. I'm going to use like quite a small bucket seat. I'm going to try and move it over to get me away from this pillar a bit also. But this is why the main hoop needed to be sat so far back, because the back of my seat is pretty much central to this window here. It's going to be tight for door bars. I think I'll probably do the door bars that come out into the door, which I'm not necessarily a massive fan of. I prefer the look of just the straight cross, like the traditional sort of cross door bars. And in terms of like structural rigidity, it's a better design. But if you've been in a car that has the door bars that come out into the door, it's much easier to get in and out. And if someone comes into your side door, it's nice to know that you've got that extra bit of space. And I'm going to be running fiberglass doors more than likely, so I think it's probably a good idea. Right, so that's it for this one. Good bit of progress. I'm just going to keep ploughing on with the roll cage now until the roll cage is done. I've been reading through the comments. I do try and read through them all. There's a lot to get through. There's a lot of people comparing this to Project Binky, which I don't really like, because they're just 2 completely different things. I haven't watched all of their videos. I've seen a few of them, and from what I've seen, they're completely re-engineering a whole car and every component on it, every part. It's really not the same. Like, all I'm doing is taking a floor pan, a rusty old shell, sticking them together, putting a roll cage in it, and then I'll go and batter it around the racetrack. I think if they told you the amount of man hours that went into one video that they do, you wouldn't believe it. Like, watching that and seeing how much work goes into it, that level of attention to detail and the way they do things, you know, the man hours to do it would be unreal, whoever was doing it. So yeah, I don't really want this to be compared to that, because it's just not the same thing. So yeah, I'll end it off there anyway. But back on it tomorrow, so that's it for this one. Cheers for watching. See you on the next one.